Hello, I'm Matthew Turner. I'm an architect from Enduring Domain Architecture based in Ballarat in central Victoria. It has been a little while since our last video. Things have been quite busy in the old building design world and in the world in general. We've all been in somewhat of a state of a lockdown for the last few months. I've been working at home for the last 3 months, feeling quite homebound, quite work-bound. There's been a lot of new interest in what we do. People who are finding themselves stuck at home, spending a lot more time at home than what they're used to. And hey, if your house isn't that great to be in, if it isn't warm, if it's hard to heat, especially during winter, it just makes it harder to stay healthy, to stay motivated, lacking daylight, all of those kinds of things. And not to mention the cost. All of a sudden, we're all paying the heating bill instead of the boss at work. So I think a lot of people who may have been thinking about building or renovating, retrofitting their existing home to make it a bit more energy efficient and enjoyable to actually live in, they're starting to think about, hey, there's not going to be a better time to get onto this. So let's see what we can do about it. And together with the grants, the government's home building stimulus scheme, which has recently been announced, has piqued a lot of interest. I think the eligibility criteria is a little bit contentious. A lot of people might think that it's not really going to help them. But I think, other than the volume home builders where you've got a package deal ready to go and hey, you get an extra 25 grand to spend on pimping out the home cinema or whatever it might be. I'm hoping that with the kind of stuff that I do in the custom design world, that $25,000 might go to purchasing a better quality of windows and doors, which are going to make a huge positive impact on your quality of life. Upgrade that insulation, do something better with the fabric of your building, which is going to reduce your bills, keep you warm, just make you happy to live in it, rather than those more sort of superficial things that people might otherwise spend that kind of money on. So I have been quite office bound, but fortunately today I was able to go and visit some past clients who I've designed a hempcrete home for. Something a little bit unconventional, at least in Australia now. It's not all that common, but there is a little bit more interest about something like that. We can talk more later about why you would build a home with hempcrete. What are the benefits? So this young couple, they've got a couple of young kids. They're owner builders. They've been at it for a year. I'd not been to the site since they'd started, so I was quite keen to see how they're getting on, see how the building's shaping up, see if it met their expectations, compare that to the drawings and the 3D model that we used to design the home, and to illustrate to them how it's all going to look, how it's going to work. So that was a fascinating, very interesting 4 hours that I spent there today talking to them, watching them work a little bit, and just being able to enjoy the end product. We spend so much time designing buildings, and really our product is drawings, but it's all with the end goal of getting a building built. Hopefully that's a good building, and even better, it's a great building, which I think was very much the case with what I have seen with the current state of this building. Not quite finished yet, but it's looking to be great. Yeah, so that's that feedback that we get from a finished building or something under construction, there's often a big time lag, because it takes so long between finishing designing something to when it actually gets to be built. So in terms of that reward, I guess, as an architect, to see your work materialize, it's a very long-term process. And then also getting that feedback from the owners, or any observations that you make yourself about what did or didn't work, what were my design ideas, even a couple of years ago, and how has my thinking changed since then. So, okay, we'll have a bit of a look at the 3D model before having a tour from the real thing. So here we have the SketchUp model, which was developed to design this house within its context. There is a slope from east down to the west, and also some well-established, mature native trees. So those things are all very important to show in the context of the model. In terms of the slope, we want to have an idea of the amount of cut and fill required to create that flat bench to put our slab down. We don't want any surprises when it comes to the amount of excavation that's going to be involved. We want to know before the day how much cutting and filling is going to be. The structural engineers want to know that too, so they can design their footings appropriately. Also, the trees, it's a good idea to know where they are, how tall they are, just to see if there's going to be any overshadowing to our building. So in this case, we've got photovoltaics on the roof. It's an off-grid home, so it's vital that they are exposed to the sun as much as possible. Not only that, but solar gain, which is the principle of sun entering the building via the windows in a controlled manner, is very important to actually heat our building for free during those colder months. But then we want to know that we can exclude that higher angle sun as well with our roof overhangs. So the whole thing is really a design tool to make sure that we're getting the sun in when we need it, and not in when we don't want it. So we can look at different times of the year, different times of the day, to make sure everything is happening as it should. So there's two elements to this building. On the left is the garage, the shed. We have a glassy link, which is just a sheltered area to enter either of these buildings, that can also be used to propagate some seedlings, have a kitchen garden happening in a planter bed here throughout the year. The main house is in this bigger form here. Now, it's not a huge building footprint, but we're packing a lot in because it's a loft design. We have a mezzanine floor. If I can show you a section. So we've got bedrooms upstairs overlooking this bigger volume. We're very careful about the proportions so as not to make these volumes too huge that it wouldn't be cozy feeling or that it would be difficult to heat. We've got these lower spaces at the back on the south side, which will be quicker to heat up. We've got this masonry heater at the back here, so heat will flood these lower spaces towards the back before spilling out into our main space, and then going upstairs into the bedrooms. So we've got this catwalk kind of access where we can put down onto the void below. We're borrowing lights. We're allowing air to move through the building. So we've got these awning windows down the bottom, which we can open up. So in summer, we open up these ones up the top here and get this stack cross-flow ventilation to cool our building. So no air conditioning will be required in this building. A bit of heating With that masonry heater, they've got plenty of access to firewood, so that's quite a self-sufficient, sustainable form of heating. They won't need to be burning a lot of wood to heat such a home. I can show you with the roof off how all that's working together. It's quite a compact form, so there's not a lot of surface area compared to the amount of volume that we're enclosing. So that's kind of the ideal thing that we look for in an energy efficient home, so we don't have a lot of external surface area through which to lose heat. So you lose heat even through good insulation, through good windows, just at a lower rate. So if I stop that share, and I can show you some photos. So at the top is a photo I took today of the north facade, and below is the artist's impression, if you like, image that I prepared while I was working for them. Besides the colours, I mean, that's pretty much exactly built exactly how it was designed and looks in its setting, you know, exactly, almost exactly how I pictured it. Let's have a look at another view. So that's the northwest corner again, with the as-built up above, still under construction, as you can see, and then down below the 3D render of the same view of how that building looks in its setting. So it was quite exciting to be driving up the road and to see what I've been imagining, you know, for the last couple of years in these drawings, and there it is actually materialized. Okay, let's have an actual tour of the built thing.
So here I am at a new home being owned and built by a couple of my clients out at Metcalfe. And this is my first visit since I started building, and I must say I'm very impressed by what they've done themselves. So they've been at it for quite a while, but the work that they've done is really amazing. So this is actually a Hempcrete house. What you can see on the outside of the building is a WeatherTex cladding. Now, WeatherTex is a vapor permeable cladding product. In this case, they've also used it as a permanent formwork for the Hempcrete. The Hempcrete is actually tamped internally within a frame. The WeatherTex stays on the outside, which is used as not only a bracing for the structure, but also to give weather protection to the building. So that's a natural WeatherTex. It comes in that brown color, but that does gray off as the weather gets on it, or you can actually oil it if you want to keep it a rich color. So there's two parts to this building. On the left hand side we have the barn, the garage, which has the plant room and the solar panels on the roof, which you can see. So this home is actually off grid. Nothing here is connected to the outside services, so they're completely self-sufficient for power, for water collection, waste treatment. Everything is dealt with and produced within the site. So the main house is the volume that you can see to the right, the larger volume. And it's a loft style dwelling, so it's quite a small footprint, but it's tall. So it's 1.5 spaces high, with a mezzanine level towards the back that has bedrooms. And the large windows you can see here facing the north, which are letting the sun in, and it's a beautiful winter's day right now. It's starting to get warm inside the building, even though it's not all completely insulated and sealed up yet. So it's a good sign of things to come. Let's go and have a closer look. Standing outside the north facade of the building, so the building is orientated to face the sun, which is in the northern part of the sky. So that's one of the most crucial things when planning out a new home, is that you're getting large windows of your living areas facing towards the sun. This is going to get the sun in all day or throughout most of the day during the colder months when the sun is low in the sky. penetrating through deep into the building, hitting a thermal mass floor, storing the heat. This is what's going to give you free heat throughout the colder months and provide a fairly constant temperature to your building. But also in summer, conversely, any sun getting inside the building or any heat building up inside is getting absorbed by that concrete slab, which can then sink that excess heat down into the ground being an infinite source of thermal mass. A lot of people talk about insulating underneath the slab as a way to better keep the winter heat in. And yes, that will happen, but you also have to consider what does that do in summer. If you're getting a week of excessively hot weather, 35 degrees to 40 degrees, and your building is starting to heat up, does that heat have anywhere to go? So insulating under the slab can actually have an adverse effect. Once that concrete slab is saturated with heat energy, there's nowhere for it to go except back into your building, further heating up the building. So we carefully consider whether or not we insulate slabs. I definitely think insulating a slab edge is a good thing. In this case, the owners have not done that for various reasons, but I think this building is going to perform very well as a whole regardless. It's towards the end of July, so you can see where that shadow is falling on the wall. It's just above the head of the windows, which means our eave overhang is not preventing any of that sun from getting into our glass. So we're getting the most out of that glass. The eave overhang is not so deep that it's blocking any of that low winter sun into the building. As the year progresses, the sun will be higher in the sky. That eave overhang will start to cast shade over those windows from the top down until the middle of summer. No sun getting directly into the building whatsoever. The space that you see behind me in between the two forms is actually going to be infilled with glass. So that will become a sheltered entry to come into the building from the garage. And it's also going to be a little bit of a fun greenhouse space where they can have a few kitchen herbs and propagate some seedlings in there, and just have a nice sunny shelter space in between the two forms. It's all right, you're only on video. Here's the hard workers. This is a section of completed Hempcrete wall. You can see at the top here we've got this black form ply which forms the shuttering or the formwork. So this section on top of the wall is where there's still yet to be Hempcrete tamped down into the void that's created. So you can see below here, you'll see these horizontal lines. Each one of those bands is a layer of Hempcrete which is being tamped into the formwork. So this formwork moves up the wall as you complete a section of wall. So as soon as this is dried enough to move that formwork, that can be removed and lifted up. So we're just going up the wall in small sections and tamping that Hempcrete mixture, which is like a wet mixture, into the formwork, into the void, which is about 250 millimeters thick. Is that right? 300. So we've got 300 thick walls, which is quite a thick, sturdy wall, and you get a sense when you're inside the building, it's a very solid feel. And even though only half the building is currently Hempcreted, it just feels very calm in here. It's got a great feel, so we can't wait until it's all completed to feel what kind of space it's going to be in here.
Okay, here's a live demonstration of tamping. Jamie can do it, anyone can. Look how easy that is. Tamp, 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 tamp. Get it all nice and evenly compacted into our formwork. You can see that formwork is bolted temporarily to the frame. These guys have also milled all their own timber from Cypress macrocarpa, is that right?
Yeah, sorry.
Milled all their own timber for the framing, which came from some local trees. So a very hands-on project. And not a lot wasted on this building site either. All that formwork will be used for something else, probably for lining out the shed later on. Very little waste created, I should say. Jamie was very proud to show me how much waste there was left over after the masonry wood heater construction. Just that little handful of rubble. That was all the waste from the stone laying here. This is the mixing station here. This is basically a giant mix master where all the ingredients for the hempcrete are combined together. So over the back you can see the packaged bales of hemp. That's the raw product. So that gets fed into this mixing machine along with lime. We've just got some bags of lime here. That together with water in the right mixture. So Jamie and Ness have been at this for a while, and they've got the hang of the right ratios. So it's quite important to get the right ratios of lime and water together with the hemp, just so that the hemp sets hard eventually, but doesn't dry too quickly or become brittle. So that's something they've definitely had some good early advice on. Done some practice walls first, and now quite confident with doing the walls of their home, and yeah, so far achieving very good results. So I'll hope you agree that the building as it is, although not finished yet, is really looking quite amazing. The commitment of Jamie and Ness, the owners, to seeing through the design as we envisioned it, and a lot of the design was their idea. So it was very much a collaborative process. My job was to take their ideas and to combine all the practicalities of building regs into something which was going to be workable, something doable. But definitely they've committed themselves 100%, going along for the journey. They've been very hands-on with the whole building. They've had professional assistance with the concreting, the plumbing, some carpentry help with the framing, but they've been there the whole step of the way. They're doing all the hempcreting themselves now internally, and no doubt they'll be doing a lot of the fit out until finish as well. It's unbelievable, I guess the environmental footprint of this building in its construction. They've really set out to minimize. So all of the timber framing, the timber floorboards, they've sourced some local cypress trees. A lot of the cypress hedges around, you might have noticed, are getting cut down. They were sourced locally, milled by a local person who could do that for them. So all of that timber was milled up from the tree to all the sizes that they needed. So they've got a very good quality timber frame. They've made their own tongue and groove floorboards for the mezzanine flooring. And there just hasn't been any waste. They've just ordered everything that they're going to need in the building. Any offcuts have been used elsewhere. So I think I mentioned the formwork. There wasn't a lot of that. They were small pieces as they came from the hardware store, so they didn't even need to cut those. So they can be used to line the inside of the barn, the shed later on. A little fun exercise that the kids did was to gather up a lot of the offcuts of various things, irregular shapes, and put them together like a giant Tetris puzzle to do some wall lining in the shed as well. Very little waste generated on the site, nothing really leaving the site in huge skips as you see in any other kind of normal building site. So that's all very impressive. And no doubt once the house is finished and they're living in it, it's going to be a very low energy consumption building. Nothing is being drawn from the grid to run this home as it is. They're generating all their own power. So other than the initial embodied energy to manufacture the home, and a lot of things did come from a very local area, so not a lot of energy used in transportation. So throughout the life of this building, there's not going to be any bills. There'll be the general maintenance that any normal house would have over a period of time anyway. So even after these guys are long gone, the next people and the next people who live in this building are going to be enjoying a bill-free, comfortable, low environmental footprint existence, which I think and I hope is something that that most of us can aspire to and want to do, that even in some small way with the way that we live, whether that's a future new home build or any kind of renovation or alteration to our existing home, with a bit of imagination and commitment from your team. Yeah, we can be designing some amazing places to live in.